once again we are back on Egmont Soch ki ttalk train of thought with a series of an episode with Mr. Virendra Gupte, who is a consultant, corporate trainer and the company director and also an ex-head of trade and services and chief ethic counselor with Tata International Limited for 37 years. It's a great story only captured on ttalk Egmont Soch ki. So it's a great insights to what we are getting for our target audience. And now many of the corporates also who are listening to you on this ttalk, many a times we try and benchmark the best practices which are there. Now when we talk in terms of the business excellence, what are the practices which are being followed and which I think will be helpful for the corporates who are listening to you?
Yeah, in fact, it has always been an endeavor in human societies to really, progress. If you look at the history of human civilization, it has always been a journey of evolution over a period of time. And as in any human endeavor, same in the world, in the corporate world, in trade, commerce, industry, etc. And then if you look at the legacy of management thinkers, gurus, it has maybe emanated from the Western thought process. And then also we had that Oriental wisdom, which is our part of the world. So it's a combination of which has helped mankind in different human endeavors. When we talk specifically of the corporate world, there have been management thinkers who have been sharing their thoughts and ideas, etc. So whether we look at the first time when time and motion studies happened, for example, to the understanding the productivity in businesses, starting from automobile industry to steel industry, and so on. And then of course the Japanese brought in their perspective of quality management through Kaizen technique. The most legendary example is the Toyota production system, the TPS, right? Where they taught the world the issues relating to just-in-time inventories, quality management processes, addressing issues of eliminating waste, and so on. I let me confess, I am no guru or some champion or some expert on the subject, but I got inducted into this quality process because in the Tata Group, we tweaked the model of Malcom Baldridge, which is a quality model of the United States, and it was a US model of business excellence, which the group sort of adopted and tweaked it, and therefore all the Tata companies were in a way part of this ecosystem of driving business excellence, and I was inducted into that journey, which was one of the most breakthrough in my career in terms of the exposure in understanding an organization in a holistic manner.
Correct.
Now, as you know, that there are various tools, techniques, methods adopted by various organizations, global companies, Indian companies, etc. Starting from the ISO family, 9,000, 14,000, etc. Or we look at most companies in the world adopted Six Sigma as a process. Kaizen practices by Japanese companies. Then there are those who look at lean manufacturing, 5S theories, or they adopt Deming principles, or in food and pharma look at GMP, good manufacturing practices. If you ask me frankly, doctor, this whole journey of quality processes and driving quality norms and practices, it is something akin to, if I take a philosophical interpretation, it's like different religions, in the world, ultimately culminating towards self-realization, right? Self, or you may use the word salvation, or हम लोग जो बोलते हैं ना मोक्ष पाना. At the end of the day, different streams, different mainstream religions, subsects of religion, other practices, beliefs, etc. They all ultimately lead you to the same path, right? Self-realization, salvation, moksha.
Correct.
And I think if you take that analogy and apply to quality processes, from whichever part of the world it has emanated, from scholars, gurus, the wisdom that has emanated, they all lead primarily to the same goal. And what's the goal? The goal is you serve the customer. Customer centricity, performance excellence, the whole journey to be better. As Jim Collins says, it's a journey from good to great. right?
Correct.
And I therefore, as I say, I'm no expert on this subject. And in my exposure in the company and in the group, I have been, let's say, a beginner in that sense. Although I had the opportunity to do assessments within the group companies and so on, but I would not claim any, expertise in that area because huge amount of that space and that ecosystem remains to be explored.
Correct.
So in your own capability, capacity, in your own wisdom, in terms of your own limitations,
Correct.
you tend to absorb that learnings and try to put it into practice.
I think what
And
I
therefore,
could sense in your practices, like what are the best practices at the induction level, where right from carrying that notebook to the communication aspects and to like being on the job on action-oriented learning and all, had made your base fundamental more strong.
Absolutely. And therefore, coming back to this excellence model, basically it is about performance excellence. It is about customer excellence. So it is customer-driven quality and customer-driven excellence.
Correct.
Okay. So there are three elements to that. So one is the leadership part, that is you leading the organization,
Correct.
leadership excellence. Second is execution excellence, that basically it's about running or operating or managing the organization.
Correct.
And the third part is about organization learning, which is basically about keeping the organizations on as a learning organization, as an organization which is adaptive organization, organization which is looking at being future ready in that sense. Okay, and therefore all this culminates into the business model of what we have been driving in the group.
Correct.
It is interestingly, this model is not a prescriptive model, which means it doesn't say that it doesn't elevate itself on a high pedestal, looks down upon an organization and says, oh, why are you guys doing this? This model says that we don't interfere in whatever are your practices,
Correct.
whatever are your processes. The focus is more on results.
Correct.
So it's like, you bowl with a right hand or you bowl with a left hand, right? It doesn't matter. What matters is the result.
The end result
Right?
matters more.
How do you, sort of bamboozle your batsman in that sense?
Correct.
So here the model talks about that what are the results. At the end of the day, whatever you may do, whatever may be the method, is there a method in your madness, in short?
Correct.
And therefore the focus is on your processes.
Correct.
Okay. The approach, etc. The second important part is the execution, what we call deployment. And whether the approach and the deployment ultimately brings you the results.
Correct.
And the best part of the model, which for which we have all imbibed over a period of time, and we continue to imbibe because we are yet to reach the level of that level of maturity in that sense. Because it's a journey.
Correct.
And therefore it's not a destination.
Correct.
Any quality process, or for that matter,
Correct.
or any journey of business excellence is a journey.
Journey.
Because the goalposts will keep on changing.
Correct.
Better benchmarks. Somebody in the world will now outsmart a Usain Bolt, for example.
Correct.
He will run 100 meters faster in the next Olympics.
Correct.
Same with any human endeavor. And therefore here the approach is that how holistically you look at an organization, a 360-degree view, right? So therefore, if you look at from the vision, mission, values of a company to leadership, and then there are those 7 pillars in which the entire organization gets evaluated.
Correct.
It is a scoring system of out of 1,000. 550 marks are allocated to the approach and the deployment part, and the 450 marks are allotted to the business results.
Correct.
Right, holistically,
Correct.
in each of the pillars.
Correct.
And therefore, you are looking at an organization threadbare. Okay, when you evaluate an organization, you are not on a ego trip. In short, you are also going as a learner.
Correct.
Because there are 2 roles you play. One is that within your own organization, you are trying to drive this process.
Correct.
So you are an internal part of that internal process. Secondly, when you get nominated as a trainer or an examiner,
Correct.
you are also looking at the best practices in your group companies.
Which are here.
And they are hidden everywhere.
Correct.
In fact, if you ask me, best practices are hidden everywhere. They are waiting to be unearthed in that sense.
Correct.
Just think, sir, अपने घर में हम लोग छोटे बच्चे थे. One of the embarrassment we cause in our families, especially to our mother, is when we, excitedly came home and said, Mom, the aunt has made a fantastic biryani. आपकी माँ की बहन, छोटी बहन या बड़ी बहन.
Correct.
Look at auntie, how she has made it. and mummy, आपका क्या ये तड़का नहीं होता है सही and all that.
Correct.
The mother is agonized actually.
Correct.
Mentally disturbed.
Correct.
She says कि बच्चे लोग हैं शैतान है. Okay. यहाँ मैं खाने रोज मैं खिलाती हूँ और तारीफ मेरी बहन की करते हैं.
Correct.
Right. And then what happens is very quietly when we are asleep or we are into something else, she quietly picks up the phone and talks to her sister and says, what was the magic sauce you fed my children?
Correct.
Right? They काफी तारीफ करती है. बिरयानी के बारे में बच्चे लोग बात कर रहे थे. तो कौन सा तड़का मारा? And then the sister will say कि नहीं जो रूटीन जो दीदी आप बनाती हो मैं बना, लेकिन मैंने ये किया, ये मसाला डाला, ये किया. In a way, when you reflect back,
best practice.
Today when you sit and wear the hat of a management, a facilitator, that is the best practice.
Correct.
So you're consciously and consciously the learning has already happened.
Correct.
In your younger days, in your own home.
Correct.
That is one example.
Correct.
And then what happens is the mother has quietly, assimilated what her sister has told.
Correct.
And she surprises you on the next occasion when the biryani is made, which is absolutely a replica of what the aunt had done it.
Correct.
So what is it? Best practice.
It's the best practices which are there.
Second interesting aspect of our childhood is, when our mothers, especially, they take us to the bus stop, waiting for a school bus to where we hop in. The mothers, they interact with other mothers who are your, the mothers of your friends, because you are of the same class, same batch, and so on.
Correct.
And then, if you notice very carefully, and I'm sure this is universal,
Correct.
the mothers have that sixth sense. To my mind, they are the better managers than anybody in the world.
Correct.
And they have that foresight in mind, and they are more visionary and they are more future ready, right? So what the mother does is she talks to that lady in that group whose son or daughter is a first ranker, right? And then she quietly goes and gravitates the conversation around saying that बच्ची को कौन सा बोनविटा पिलाते हो या कॉम्प्लान पिलाती हो.
Correct.
They are able to be a school topper.
Correct.
And then to some extent she imbibes. And then she tries to say that whether you would like to tweak your study model in terms of homework, practice, etc. and so on. Now what has happened there is that subconsciously, without we realizing, the business excellence model is already practiced in the household.
Correct.
Right? So whether it is the mothers managing the household and inventory management of the groceries in the kitchen,
everything,
and some likewise in terms of the learning, in terms of whether the biryani is prepared to your liking, or whether the homework pattern needs to be tweaked. Best practices are there. They are already there. Right? What we have done is, when you step back and little later in your life, when you reflect those aspects of those nuggets of your life, they are best practices.
Correct.
Your business excellence is already germinated there.
Correct.
Today what we have done is we have fine-tuned, thanks to technology, thanks to knowledge, thanks to the wisdom prevailing, the collective wisdom in the world that exists. And then we start evaluating companies on various parameters, look at the bands and then give scores, etc. And then put them in early adopter journey or their matured company, and then reward and recognition happens, etc.
Correct.
So end of the day, it is nothing but a journey to be better.
Towards excellence.
Towards excellence. And that's what Jim Collins writes in his book From Good to Great. We are all good guys.
I see.
But what he says, and I think what is important is, and I'm sure everybody will agree, that moment you say that you are good all the time and you gloat in that goodness and that bask in that limited glory, you get into the comfort zones or become complacent.
Correct.
And then there's no motivation to really excel further.
Correct.
It's a journey of an organization in terms of product. The product initially takes off.
Correct.
And then you reach a saturation point.
Correct.
And then there is a significant decline and decay. Why? Because you are gloating in the glory of being a market leader at some point of time, but that's a very momentary leadership position.
Correct.
So I think that's the essence of this journey.
Good.
It doesn't matter what tools you adopt, which management facet or that quality process you adopt. It is more to do with philosophy and religion. It is about self-attainment and moksha at the end of the day.
Good, great. I think it's a great conversation in terms of business excellence. I think if you watch at your house, the mother, the role what she is playing at each and every aspects of her life, the actual excellence starts from there. And once we go to the corporate world, it's a replica of the technology and everything. What we follow the best practices which are there. It's always rather than being good, you have to be great, and I'm sure all the best practices which are there will take you from goodness to the greatness. That's what I think great insights for our target audience from Mr. Virendra S. Gupte, who is a consultant, corporate trainer and company director, and also being part of Tata International for more than 37 years. So great learning. where I'm sure if the target audience are listening to him, they can get lot many nuggets from his story. So thanks a lot
Thank you.
for
Pleasure.
being part of this
Wonderful.
show.
I mean, I am really relishing this journey actually.
It's my pleasure. You can just, if you like Mr. Virendra Gupte, just go to www.ttalk.net, subscribe and like the channel. Do catch up with Mr. Virendra S. Gupte in our next conversation of ttalk with Soch. Thank you very much. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.